Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Plooza. My guest at this time is pro wrestling sensation, seen on the WWE program, and musician. Right now, he's going to perform his new single, Worth a Shot. Let's have a listen.
I said, hey girl, what you drinking? What's your name? Where you from? She said, that's none of your business, but I like mine on the rocks. When minutes turn to hours, hours sort of felt like days. Run with me, kiss the next, say go back to my place. One shot turned to two shots, turned to three shots, turned to four. Now I'm naked with some beauty laying on her bedroom floor. Her whiskey ain't the answer to my problem, so maybe not. It's worth a shot. It's worth a shot. I said, hey girl, did you miss me? She said, I'm feeling kind of tipsy. And I got your shirt that smells like your cologne. So do you think it'd be alright if I stopped on by a little later tonight? Cause a pretty girl like you shouldn't be alone. Maybe before it goes too far, we can have a couple drinks at the bar. One shot turned to two shots, turned to three shots, turned to four. Now I'm naked with some beauty laying on her bedroom floor. Her whiskey ain't the answer to my problems, so maybe not, but it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot. All right, Plooza.
Thank you for debuting your new single, Worth a Shot. I know that the audience that is watching now and watching in the future will appreciate it. So thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
So once again, welcome to the show. It's been a while since I've seen you in person, but video will do today. So I want to know when, because I saw you on television years ago on the WWE programming. What was that experience like, being on TV, being a wrestler, and, having that opportunity?
Man, well, I'll tell you, the craziest thing is, I think the last time we saw each other was 2016. It was an AWA show in West Virginia. You used to always do those paintings and bring all the paintings and have all the wrestlers sign them. I thought that was super cool. And as far as my first time on WWE, the first appearance was in 2012 against Ryback, and that was on SmackDown. And then in 2016, I was on Backlash with AJ Styles in a backstage segment and stuff like that. But the recent times that I've been on was in 2000. I was on against the Viking Raiders, and I did a ton of little stints as a No Way Jose Conga Line guy. So basically, I got the call in 2012 from the talent relations department, extra talent department, asking me to have a tryout with William Regal, and it went really well. I ended up scoring the Ryback match later because of that, and then from there, they've just called me off and on for the last X amount of numbers of years. And if they call me and say they need me at television, I go and do my job and eat catering and get paid for it. So
Definitely. Was it Was it a good experience with the match with Ryback?
I've got nothing but good things to say about him. I've done a lot of these, different podcasts and interviews and stuff where I think everybody's looking for me to like say like that he ripped me to shreds and beat up really bad and stuff. And he couldn't have been more professional. So once again, I also a CM Punk guy. I like CM Punk, but CM Punk says, a lot of times that Ryback was so hard to work with and stiff and this and that. And I'm like, that just wasn't the experience that I had with Ryback. So, and I mean, he took care of me in the ring, and there was one part in the match. If you ever go back and watch the match on Peacock or anything like that, he picks the guy that I was partners with, Jared Walkler, up and slams him down on my stomach, and that was probably the only part that like knocked the wind out of me for a second, like a power bomb on my stomach. But besides, the match was really smooth.
That's good. I had met Ryback before, so I just always want to know like experiences. I've always liked him and everything, and I thought that he was definitely a good talent in the ring. So I'm glad that you got to have that amazing experience.
Absolutely, yeah, that was cool. I was 21 years old. Like I said, I was ever on WWE television. It was SmackDown, so I was in a humongous sold-out arena at the Baltimore Arena in my hometown, Baltimore, Maryland, and so much wrestling history in that building. And the coolest was I got to be on television or millions around the world.
Definitely, it's a once in a lifetime, and sometimes when we get these moments, it's like it's a snapshot. When you go back through your brain of the experiences you got to have. So
definitely.
So have you been still doing kind of like independent wrestling, or are you more on the musician side now?
I mean, I float back and forth between the two. I mean, if my body's really beat up and messed up and stuff, I take a break from wrestling, for a couple months if need be. Sometimes my brain just needs it. Sometimes I need to just decompress and get away from all.
Oh, don't worry, folks. It sometimes happens. There's a connection issue, and sometimes people get bumped. It happens. So don't worry. I will just give him a moment to join back in. Letting you know also here on Dana Plooza that we're going to have another guest right after Brian Hardy. After Brian Hardy, we're going to have Patricia Summerland, aka Sunny from Glow. So look forward to that interview. And I see Brian has joined us back. That probably just was a technical glitch. So welcome back, sir.
Sorry about that. Where were we at?
We were talking about independent wrestling, and if you were doing more musician work, mentioned about your body being beat up.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. Like I said, it literally, sometimes you just need to decompress and like I said, the politics, the abuse that your body goes through, that kind of stuff. Sometimes you need a break. And that's usually when I pick up a guitar, I write a new album. It's been a constant for the last X amount of number of years, probably I'd say 5, 6, 7 years that I've put out an album or an EP a year. I was doing a lot of rock and roll stuff. I did just decide this year to switch over into country music, but it was a nice transition because I've been playing country songs since about 2013 on stage in front of a live audience all the time. So the transition from rock and roll artist to country artist wasn't really too hard because I was doing it a little bit at a time for years and years and years. And then all of a sudden I just full blown this year said, you know what, I'm going to jump right into country. I'm just going to do it. I love it. I'm very passionate about it. It makes me happy. I love what I sing about in the songs. I love, all that kind of stuff. And I mean, even as a little kid, like long before I thought I quote unquote found myself, I was a little kid running around in cowboy boots and, cowboy hat and belt buckle and all that stuff. So, yeah.
I like to think of the song when you said you were moving from rock and roll to country, your big wheels keep on turning, turn for you to move
There you
towards
go.
the countryside. the Leonard Skinner
Absolutely. I can
reference.
agree with that. Most definitely.
But I think that that's great. Do you find that it helps you because you are like a musician and pro wrestler? Does that help you anywhere forward for wrestling? And does wrestling help you any forward as a musician? Do they kind of like help you move forward in the path you want to move?
Yeah, they're both a lot like one and the same. I mean, being an entertainer, whether it's being in a ring, wrestling, and I mean, you're beating your body up and stuff like that. But I mean, even with music, you're beating your fingers up playing the guitar, you're beating your throat up singing, stuff like that. That gets old, Like I used to do 3 shows a night, and I would do
Oh man.
4 nights a week. So I could do 12 shows in 1 week, and it would be cool. I'd clean up money wise, but it eventually started to wear and tear on me too, where I felt like sometimes I needed a break from that. And if I needed a break from singing and playing guitar, I'd run right back to the wrestling business and slam, guys around in the ring, all that kind of stuff. So I'm grateful for both of them. I love them both. I love the ability to be able to transition back and forth between the two, but they are so much alike in everything as far as the entertainment value goes and the way that promoters sometimes promoters treat musicians the same way. You have some really good promoters out there that really take care of you and they know your worth, they see your worth, and they treat you like $1 million. And then there's other promoters that are just like, yeah, I don't care if you're the best singer in the world. I don't care if you're the best wrestler in the world. Like, you don't impress me, on to the next, just another spoke on the wheel. So just depends on who you work for and that kind of stuff. But wrestling and country music are a lot alike.
Very, very true. And it's great that things keep going to propel forward. When you've done like your music videos that you've posted on the YouTube channel, which we've been sharing in the Dana Plooza Facebook page. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, make sure to check it out. What is that like with shooting that whole video? Do you have people working with you, or is it all by yourself when you're shooting that video and putting it together?
So I have worked with different videographers before, and different producers that have done stuff as far as like earlier stuff. I've watched my music video called Desperate Measures. That's all professionally done, and we had fog machines inside and of the building and all this other kind of stuff, and it was cool. But then we also I've done a lot of independent stuff too. My favorite music video is a song of mine called Redondo Beach, and it was filmed on location in California, in like towards the Anaheim area. So like I filmed, in Anaheim. I filmed right there by Redondo Beach, like on location and stuff. That was cool. And that a lot of independent stuff. That was pretty much me just handing people cams and saying, hey, record this, hey, film this. And then I went back and I started doing all the video editing myself, and I'd add in the audio and that kind of stuff. I mean, it was a lot, everything in my career, whether it's wrestling or music or whatever, a lot of the stuff that I've done has been DIY. And a lot of times people look at it and think like, wow, man, this person must have done this for him, or this person must have helped him here or there. But a lot of times I'm actually the one putting in the legwork.
That's good, because then it's like you can take all the credit and everything like that, and you can, pat yourself on the back and everything like that. You could add all of those credits, like producer, da 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 da.
Most definitely, most producer, director, all that kind of stuff.
So, who do you have? Who are some of your favorite wrestlers growing up?
Oh man, this one's always a tough, very tough question, because I'm not even kidding. I love pro wrestling with all my heart. I always have, and I mean, it was something that I've loved since birth. There was not a time in my life I don't remember professional wrestling being a major part of my life. But if I had to answer that, like in a couple people, I'd say guys like Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, Terry Funk. I mean, and like I said, that's just a few, but the list goes on and on and on from there. I mean, there's so many guys. I love old school wrestling, so I love the superstar Billy Grahams and the Bruno Sammartinos and the Larry Zbyszkos. I appreciate all that old time wrestling all the way up until, stuff of recent years. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of right now like I was when I was a kid. Even though I do it, but I love the idea of what pro wrestling was from like 1950 to like probably 2010.
Definitely. The landscape has always changed, and that's the problem sometimes with the futures. Sometimes things move on and they don't really stay the same, but it's still entertaining to this day. But I know some of my favorite wrestlers, The Undertaker is a big
Oh, yeah.
Undertaker fan. The Macho Man Randy Savage, that was another favorite of mine. Hulk Hogan, Bret Hart, and I've always liked Owen Hart and Yokozuna when I first started watching wrestling. So those were the guys that I would watch and play. I don't know if you remember the Sega Genesis game, like the Royal Rumble and everything like that, where you could come in
Oh
and do
yeah.
all that. My
Oh
friend
yeah. I
would
miss those
always
games.
would pick like Yokozuna, and I'd always pick Owen Hart. And it was interesting because when we started playing that, then like a week or two later, they were a tag team, and like they like won the belt and everything. And so I thought it was always like a premonition. We played this game, and then they won. So
Yeah, it's
good
it's
times.
so wild because like most of the guys you just named, my dad wrestled when I was a little kid,
Oh
So it's
my.
like it's really weird to, like to be that second generation wrestler where I'm like, yeah, my dad, wrestled all the guys that I grew up idolizing. So I'm like, that's kind of in my career, it's weird that I've wrestled guys like Brutus the Barber Beefcake and Hexall Jim Duggan and all these guys that I played with like their Hasbro figures or their, JN figures or whatever. And now all these years later, I got the opportunity to wrestle them. So
That's awesome. Do you have like because there are certain wrestlers that I would like to see you square up in the ring with, but is there a dream opponent for you that you've always maybe wanted to wrestle and maybe you haven't gotten the chance yet?
I actually did get the chance. I think my dream match that I always wanted to have, probably since the time I was, I don't know, 13, 14 years old. I was a huge Memphis wrestling, and I wanted to wrestle Jerry the King Lawler so bad. And I got to wrestle a couple of the other guys from Memphis too. I got to wrestle like Nate Boy Buddy Landell and stuff like that, and that was awesome. But Jerry Lawler was always at the top of that list, and I was like, if I have like a dream opponent, it would definitely be to wrestle Jerry the King Lawler. I was always like, I want to take the pile driver, that kind of stuff, and I got to in 2012, which was amazing. But I think the cooler part of that story more than anything is like when I tell people that I don't know very many people that have kicked out of Lawler's pile driver, and he let me kick out of his pile driver. So I'm like, that's pretty cool that he gave me the pile driver, and then I still kicked out. I did win the match via disqualification because there was some outside interference, but it was absolutely crazy to be a 21-year-old guy wrestling one of my 62-year-old idols. Like it was just really cool at the time. So.
Definitely. And I'm glad that you got to have that experience and how cool that you got to kick out of the pile driver. It normally doesn't happen, so it's great that you got to have that experience. So
Yeah.
kudos to
As
you
far as
there.
like as far as like dream opponents, like today, as far as like if I could just pick somebody off current TV
Mm-hmm.
that I want to wrestle, I'm a
Yeah,
huge AEW fan, and I really do love their product. I would love to wrestle the Young Bucks, and that's kind of where I stand right now as far as like dream opponents. I've been a big follower of Being the Elite, the show on YouTube, since 2016, 2017. And I've been an avid AEW fan. I love their product. I love what they're doing. So AEW, Young Bucks, me and the Young Bucks, somebody make it happen.
all right. Yes, please make that match happen. I was going to also suggest you and Darby Allen. That would be a good match, I feel like, too.
Yeah, that would be cool. I would definitely love to wrestle Darby Allen.
And from old school, that I thought would be a good wrestler, because I went all the way to old school to ECW. I know he doesn't wrestle now, but I was thinking Jerry Lynn.
Oh man, I would have loved to have had a match with Jerry Lynn. Jerry Lynn or Van Dam. I would have loved to have been in the ring with them. My favorite ECW guy when I was a kid, most people don't know this either, that I ended up becoming friends with in my adult life, was Little
Oh wow.
Guido Nunzio. And
Ah.
I loved my matches with him too. I thought he was fantastic. So I loved wrestling Little Guido.
That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't met him yet, but I've always wanted to, so I definitely need to meet him someday. I always enjoyed him in ECW, and one of my favorite guys was always Yoshihiro Tajiri. His matches in ECW, though. Um,
Um, him with Super Crazy and Guido, man, the three of them together in the three-way dances, they would tear the house down.
Definitely, definitely. I know from talking with Tori Wilson that sometimes uh, I think sometimes he would like mess with as far as much he can understand in English and everything like that with working with her. So I know that that it would probably be a good match, for you and everything like that. But watch out for the mist and the buzzsaw kicks.
That would be an honor.
Definitely, definitely. Um, so, were you a fan of both? Because there's always the Monday Night Wars. There was the WWF, now WWE, and WCW. Were you a fan of watching both of those products, or were you loyal to just one?
As a kid, I was actually like, it's weird because in my younger days, I do remember like I put everything in comparison to action figures because I had my YouTube show called Brian's Wrestling Collection where I talk about all this different memorabilia over the years that I've collected and for everything from magazines to action figures to whatever. So I really do like a mindset of action figures at the time. And I know from like age like 1 to like 3, I was definitely playing with like LJN WWF figures and Hasbro WWF figures. I wasn't really playing with very much. And then all of a sudden, like this surge of like my brother passing figures to me and one of my neighbor's boyfriends bringing me WCW Galoob figures and all this different stuff really set me into a tone of like I started out WWF and then I turned into like WCW for a while, and that was at the same time it started coming out with the big rubber original San Francisco Toy Makers figures, and I had Harlem Heat and Sting and Hogan. I had everybody, and I watched like the first WCW Nitro from the Mall of America and stuff like that.
Oh
So I
yeah.
was really deep into WCW at a younger age, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Hart Foundation took over with their feud in WWF, and I was like changing the channel more to WWF, and I was a Bret Hart, Owen Hart, and Bulldog guy and stuff like that. And then that turned into eventually, I mean, I followed over into the Attitude Era, of course, The Rock and Austin and everything like that. And then the only thing that had me continuously flipping the channel back to WCW was the cruiserweights. And I mean, I was a huge Eddie Guerrero, Rey Mysterio, Billy Kidman, like all those guys. Like I was a huge fan of them. Dean Malenko, Perry Saturn, Chris Benoit, like the Radicals. All those guys before they came to WWF. I was huge into them. And I tried to follow, the cruiserweight scene a lot on WCW. But I mean, I'd say a majority of my love for pro wrestling at the time was WWF. I mean, I was just raised on it. But it's weird too, because then I started the older and older I would get, I would research stuff that I didn't really watch. So like I'm a humongous AWA fan. I mean, I got an AWA tattoo right there, but like
There you go.
I didn't even really know. Yeah, I got the old WWF logo and the AWA logo and stuff like that.
There
But
you go.
I didn't even really know what AWA was until I became a teenager and I started watching like ESPN classics, and I would watch like Vern Gagne and Nick Bockwinkel and the Rockers and Doug Summers and Buddy Rose and stuff like that, and it was just mind blowing. And I was like, I love AWA. Like, how did I not watch this as a kid? But it was just a little bit before my time.
Yep, and that's what's always great is you can always go back and back to we also plugged, and for those watching, make sure to check out Brian's Wrestling Collection YouTube channel. So make sure to follow that. But when you were talking about the figures, the first two figures I got for my birthday party was they were bendies and you could bend them and twist them. Was Sting and Ric Flair, and it was like
Oh
Surfer,
man.
Sting, and Ric Flair, and Flair
Yep,
didn't even
I
look
had
like
both of
Flair.
them. Yep. The Sting was in the white with the face paint. He had like the
Yeah.
blue, I think the blue boots, the white tights, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
I had him. I had Ric Flair in the purplish trunks. Like those were cool, man. I had Barry Windham. Barry Windham was one of my first ones too of those that I played
Oh
with.
wow.
So.
Definitely. But yeah, I remember those figures, and then I first started out with WCW because all my friends would watch it. We'd sit around the table at lunch and we'd talk about the comics and we talk about wrestling. And they were also in band. They would play instruments in the band, except me. And so when what you were talking about, like the Attitude Era and Brett and everything, and The Rock and all that came in. That's when I started switching the channels, and like I used to like watch one TV, I'd have WCW, and then I'd watch like WWF, and instead of channel surfing, so I could simultaneously watch and compare the actions, or I would record with the old VHS and put it in there, and then watch it and rewind it. So um, you
I feel so sorry for anybody that didn't actually get to experience that like live when it was taking place. Like, because kids of today will never know what it was like to have to like flip. I mean, I guess they do sometimes with AEW and NXT if they're going head to head,
right.
but like nobody will ever know what it was like for the Monday Night Wars to have to like flip back and forth between Raw and Nitro.
Exactly. You'd be like, "Oh, here comes the NWO. What happened to The Rock? I gotta see. I gotta go and then go back and flip, 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 flip."
Good times.
But it is. It's definitely is good times, and I'm glad that you've had any of the experiences. Do you have anything else coming up for you?
Right now, so as far as like wrestling goes, I don't have anything planned at the moment. But that as the start of the new year happens, that everything changes. Independent promoters will contact me. I've been wrestling a lot over the last couple of years for Coastal Championship Wrestling. They're out of Sterling, New Jersey. The promoter Al Lacada is absolutely amazing. Always takes care of the talent. Always treats me very well. And so you'll probably see me in the CCW ring a couple times this upcoming year. And all that kind of stuff. As far as music goes, this month, actually, you guys, this interview here will be the second day of my Worth a Shot, 31 days of Worth a Shot tour, as I'd like to call it, where every day for 31 days leading up to the release of my EP, which is called Worth a Shot, and that was the single Worth a Shot, I will be playing that song every single day, 31 days on like 31 different appearances, whether it's out in public somewhere, whether it's on a YouTube show, whether it's wherever. Just trying to really push that and get that out. And on the 31st of this month, that EP releases. It's 4 songs and 4 of my first country songs. So I'm excited about that. I look forward to releasing that and getting as many shows going in the start of the new year as I possibly can to plug that as well.
All right. Well, we thank you for debuting that on Dana Palooza, and I'm glad that lots of things are in the work for you. And I'd like to thank you for being a guest on Dana Palooza. Is there anything else you'd like to say as we wrap it up?
I want to take the time to thank you. It was great seeing you again. I know it's been a long time. I'm glad we got to see each other virtually. I'm sure we'll see each other in person sometime. Be sure to check out all of my social medias at Brian's Wrestling Collection for all that kind of stuff on YouTube and TikTok and all that good stuff. And then Brian Hardy Music as far as Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok are concerned. And that's all my music stuff, Brian Hardy Music. So yeah, that's it. And I greatly appreciate you taking the time tonight to talk with me.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank my guest, pro wrestling sensation, seen on WWE programming and musician, Brian Hardy. Thank you for watching Dana Palooza. We're not done yet. One more guest after from the gorgeous ladies of wrestling, Patricia Summerland, aka Sunny the California Girl, is up next. Stay tuned and have a good night.